Could Keir Starmer lose his seat to a Jewish former aide to Nelson Mandela over the issue of Gaza? We're here in Holborn and St Pancras to cover the campaign of Andrew Feinstein to unseat the potential future Prime Minister of Britain.
Hope it goes well. I'll see you in a bit.
Can we start with a little bit of your history, personal history? Because your mum was a survivor of the Holocaust, is that right?
Yeah. My mom was Austrian, and she survived the Holocaust in occupied Vienna. She was hidden in a coal cellar for 3.5 years. And whenever there was a Nazi raid in the area, she lived in a sort of a working class suburb of Austria. She'd be rolled up in a carpet and the carpet pushed up against the wall in case the soldiers managed to shoot through the door down to the coal cellar. But then she met my dad, who was South African, in London, and they went back to South Africa together. And she sort of realized that what was happening to black people in South Africa was what had happened to Jews in Europe.
And how much of that experience of growing up with knowing what happened to your mum and knowing the history of the Holocaust and the history of the persecution of Jewish people informed your outlook?
From my mother's side, it was always a matter, we will always be on the side of the oppressed, never the oppressor. And it doesn't matter who is doing the oppression. And so it's been central to my politics, I think, even before I understood what politics really are. So it forms everything of my political outlook. And then, of course, my sort of formal political experience in South Africa.
Andrew was elected as an MP in South Africa for Nelson Mandela's party, the African National Congress. I wanted to know how he first got involved with a revolutionary group like the ANC.
An entire squatter settlement of 70,000 shacks was burned to the ground by the apartheid military and police. And I went in illegally with 20 other students to run a relief operation for the people who'd lost everything. And it was then that I was asked to go to a meeting, and I didn't realize at the time, but this was an ANC underground meeting. Right. And, I didn't know anybody's actual names or anything. And that was almost a process of informal recruitment into the ANC.
Andrew ultimately quit South Africa's parliament after exposing a corrupt arms deal. He moved here to Camden, where he's lived for the last 20 years, and continues to speak out over poor housing and excessive military spending. Where are we now?
Okay, so we're coming into a very famous area of Camden called Somerstown. And it's actually an area that Keir Starmer mentioned in the launch.
In my constituency, there's Somerstown. And we have children in Somerstown, a very deprived area.
There is absolutely nothing in his manifesto that'll make anything better for the people of Somerstown. Both parties are saying is they're going to increase defence spending, which is going to cost, an extra £9 billion a year for the next few years, which would enable Labour, for instance, to scrap the two-child benefit cap, which would have a massive impact on people's lives here. But that's a political choice.
What's the last 8 months been like for you with the genocide in Gaza? Because I think it's affected a lot of people deeply. And is that the main reason why you decided to run against Starmer?
People have been asking me for sort of 1.5 years, 2 years to stand. And initially I just looked for another candidate because I thought, why should a 60-year-old white guy from Cape Town be standing? And people kept on saying to me, no, but with your personal and political history, you're exactly the sort of person to stand. Then, of course, the 7th of October happened. And, as a Jewish person, as someone whose mom was a Holocaust survivor, the events in Israel of the 7th of October really affected me deeply. But then to see the reaction of Israel, and I had to stop looking at my phone from about 10 o'clock at night because I would see an image and I simply wouldn't be able to sleep. It was the final thing, the tipping point, if you will, that caused me to stand.
Like many former Labour voters, Andrew was horrified by Keir Starmer's uncritical support for Israel.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
Since October, Andrew has marched repeatedly for a ceasefire, a demand shared by many people in Starmer's constituency.
What's your name?
Saleh.
Saleh, how are you doing?
The Labour Party camp.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the 3 doors are like 109, 108. They said, sorry.
Really?
We don't want to talk to you. Ceasefire is one word.
Yeah.
That won't harm no one.
Exactly.
It wouldn't really make other people upset. Ceasefire.
Yeah.
I when I was growing, there was a problems back home. So I know the trauma and the problems of people facing, running out from place to another.
Absolutely.
So you see, but it's just like, even if he says we need a ceasefire, people, you understand. But The only thing I want to say is, I mean, you're working very hard. A lot of people working not because of the love of person, because your policy.
Exactly.
What they're supporting you is not who you are.
This isn't my campaign. Yeah, this is all of our campaign.
And your team and everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
What do you think of Keir Starmer?
Oh, the Keir Starmer, first he needs to be honest to himself. We need, before you want to be honest to others, he needs to be honest to himself.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Please get as many people to register and to vote as possible.
No, people will vote.
Yeah.
Is it 8 people died now will vote for you?
Labour Party strategists might expect Andrew to win support from Saleh, who fled civil war in Somalia, but his support base appears much broader than that. He took us to meet Dan Bruce, a successful businessman who bought an £800,000 new build property.
This whole area collapsed and it was like a waterfall when the rain came in. So most of the apartments are uninhabited because you can't inhabit them. And so this is the first one.
But you still living here or not?
I'm living upstairs.
You're living upstairs.
There we go. So you'll be able to smell it the minute you come in.
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus, it smells like a cellar.
Yeah.
Hey?
So you don't have to, So...
Oh my God.
It's got massive structural issues. You can see where the timber and the steel are starting to rot and rust. And so if you want to follow me into this room, you'll...
Yeah. When were these finished?
2018.
You are kidding me.
No, so if you
And this is the state of it?
So this, I mean...
In less than 6 years? No.
Yeah, all our fixtures and fittings holding the structure together are rusting.
Wow.
We're totally unprotected. So at the point that
But how can you be totally unprotected?
New build home buyers have less protection than when you're buying a washing machine, essentially.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't. There's no protection.
So how would you change things? I mean...
Consumer rights. So I don't think there is amongst the major parties the political will to strengthen building regulations, which is what really needs to happen.
We've just had the anniversary of the Grenfell tragedy, where basically people put in the cheapest cladding possible, even though they knew it was flammable, because it made them more profit.
Yes.
And
we're talking pounds on a panel, we're not...
No, exactly. So you've got that situation where you have a low-income community who are living in this building and their lives are put in danger and dozens of people die. And then you have someone who you're sort of a middle-class person who got the money together because of the success of your business to buy a flat. And if you've effectively been taken for a ride by the builders...
We've had a lot of correspondence with Keir Starmer's office. In his constituency, he knows of, there's 3 of us in this building who have lost everything due to dodgy developers. And it's nuts that a guy who says he'll fight for fairness and fight for the country hasn't fought for his constituents. It's absolutely batshit crazy.
Dan's ordeal is a reminder of how broken Britain is. It's not just the cladding scandal or sky-high rents, even leaseholders and new build buyers are getting shafted by deregulation and endless profiteering, a system Starmer will do little to change. Andrew has some 700 volunteers signed up to support his grassroots campaign and vows to keep challenging Starmer's Labour Party whatever the result on July 4th.